Hi everyone, I'm Tian. I'm going to be doing part 3, or rather the 4th part today. We're going to be talking about everything else that you guys need to know for quiz 0. I don't have as many animations, but here's the basic things that you need to know about pointers. So there's two things about pointer notation. The first is the ampersand, and the second is the star. So when you have ampersand and a variable, what you get is you get the address of the variable. Whereas if you have a star and you have a pointer, you dereference the pointer and you return the value referenced by the pointer. So for my case, my name is Tian and I live in Elliott House. So if you do ampersand me, you get the reference Elliott House. Whereas if you dereference Elliott House, you'll get me. So when you do pointer arithmetic, that's the way that you can move around pointers, which is the equivalent of the address of whatever variable you have in memory. And that way you can access things around your pointer. We'll be talking about this a lot more after problem set 5, after the quiz. But incidentally, for your information, array of I is the same thing as saying dereferencing the address plus I. And we'll talk about this more, but basics of pointers. So malloc and heaps. Malloc is basically a way for us to dynamically allocate memory. So previously when we had functions, we created new variables in the function by saying int a semicolon. But here we can dynamically allocate memory, and instead of putting it on the stack, which is local, we can put it on a heap, which through a previous animation you can see is top down. This memory will exist up until you erase the memory, up until you free it. And you can reference it between functions. You can create memory in a function and then reference it back in main. You can create memory in one function and then reference it in another function. The one thing that you really need to know about malloc is you should always use it in conjunction with free.
Yeah, the mic is hitting your jacket.
Sorry.
Put it on the other side of your shirt. That's great. Thank you. Yep.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So the thing to know about malloc is you should always use the root 3. And essentially what malloc does is malloc returns a pointer. So in our example here, we can see that you can see type star array equals malloc size, and that's generally how you call malloc. Does anyone have any questions about malloc pointers? It's pretty straightforward. So on to arrays and strings. You can see that an array is, the name of the array is just a pointer to the first value of the array. And in reference to the question posed to Rose earlier, can you return an array? You can't exactly return an array from a function per se, but you can return a pointer from a function. And from that pointer, you can see that the pointer would be the address of the array, and you can access things in the array like that. So if you created an array in a function with malloc, then you can return the pointer to the start of the array, and you can use that array in another function. You can use that array in main, you can use that array anywhere else in the program. And you can see that strings are just arrays of characters that end with a null byte. And the name of the string is just a reference to the first character of the string. Any questions? So going along the eclectic theme of my section, structs and type def. So structs are custom objects of aggregated data types. So you can have a structure that includes many things. Typically, the examples that we see in class is a struct of a student. You have the ID, you have their name, you have all the information you want to know about that, about the person. The format of the struct is you write the word struct, you write the name of whatever you want to call this grouping, this object, and then you put all the stuff that you want inside, all the declarations. And when referencing data in a struct, you can do it in two ways. You can say struct.field, and that will give you the field inside the struct. Or you can do the pointers of the struct to the field. There's a typo there. So for me, if you want my name, you do tian.name. But since you know my address, you can say who lives at Elliott name. That'll give you the same thing. In terms of type def, it's a custom naming of data types and objects. The syntax is type def, whatever you want with the name. So you can do type def integer ID if you want to just call integers IDs for the rest of the program. Typically what we see is we use type defs and structs together in this class, and you can do type def struct, int ID, character name, and student. And essentially what this declaration is doing is it's saying we want a structure with an integer and an string in it, and we want to call it student. And this way, in the future, you can just say, I want to create a new student, and the ID and the name will come with it. Does anyone have any questions about structs and type graphs? All right. In regards to linked lists versus arrays, linked lists and arrays are similar in several ways. You can organize different collections of information. They're both traversable, and they're both organized together. But the difference between a linked list and array is that while arrays are fixed length and fixed order, they're giant contiguous blocks of memory. Linked lists are much more fluid and much more dynamic. You can basically put a node anywhere in your memory, and you can reference it because they're linked together. It's variable length, it's variable order, and they're non-contiguous. Also with arrays, we saw before that they're indexable. So you can do array 1 or array 0 or array n. Whereas linked lists, you have to go through the list. So when would you use a linked list versus array? The pros of a linked list is that linked lists allow you to arbitrarily insert and delete items, versus arrays where you need to reallocate or transfer the array whenever you want to delete something. So say you have an array of 5 items, and you want to delete the second thing, then what you essentially have to do is you have to take out the second thing, and then copy the first, third, fourth, and fifth item into a new array. Whereas in a linked list, you can just delete that node and stick everything else together. The other pros of linked lists is that they're easy to reorder, whereas in arrays you have to copy and swap, and it's just a huge mess as you saw with the sorts that we had to implement earlier, O of n squared times. And there's no need for contiguous blocks of memory. So if you have something with tens of thousands of items, you would need a thing of tens of thousands of bytes altogether, versus a linked list, you can just find that memory wherever, squeeze it out. The cons with linked lists is because you can't index them, it requires linear time access. So if you want to find the nth item of a linked list, you have to go through the first one, and then follow the address to the second one, follow the address to the third one, follow the address to the fourth one, until you get to the nth one, which is linear, whereas an array is constant. You can just go array of n, and that'll get you to a place. And the other con is the overhead for pointer data. So you need the information to get from one node to the other. So you need the pointer to the next one or the pointer to the previous one, whereas arrays are just contiguous. The con with linked lists is if you have something that's really small, then if it's only 4 bytes, why allocate another 4 bytes for the pointer? So the way that linked lists are constructed, usually we use the type def struct node call. So you have a data and you have a pointer associated, a piece of data and a pointer associated with it, and another piece of data, another pointer associated, so on and so on. So you have a structure with a pointer to the next node and all the data that you want in it. So if you had a student node, for example, you would have type def struct node next, and then you would have something like int ID, string name, int phone number, and then at the end you would call a student. And you can link them together and put them together in a massive list. Underneath, we can see that W linked lists are the ones that point to the previous one as well as the next one. But for the purpose of this quiz, I don't believe you have to know that. Don't quote me on that. Does anyone have questions on linked lists? Pretty straightforward. And then stacks and queues. The stack here is different from the stack that we talked about earlier. The stack that we talked about earlier were different ways that memory is sort of formed on your machine. Here it's sort of a data organization method. A stack, what you need to know about it is its last and first out. Essentially the way to visualize it, it's like a stack of paper. You put things on the stack, you take things off the stack, and it's a little bit of like a pile. My roommate came up with this analogy, but it's a little like a box of saltines. You can only grab the one that's on the surface. And with queues, it's the exact opposite. So it's first in, first out. So it's probably the most intuitive thing we'll talk about in CS50, and it's just like a line. So you wait in line. If you're in line first, you get out of the line first. If you're putting a print job in first, you get the print job out first. And then the last slide of today, file I/O. So far in class, we've used 4 main file-related calls: fopen and close, which opens and closes files; fetc, which gets a char